So, welcome to Depth by Design. Today's guest is Heather, also known as my mother. Heather was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just like her parents before her. She's a mother of three and thoroughly enjoys an active lifestyle. She had dreams of traveling when she was younger, which she has managed to fulfill with trips to Europe, the Galapagos Islands, and Israel. So, welcome to Depth by Design,
Well, thank you.
Mom. So
Thank you,
nice to have
Summer,
you.
one of my beautiful daughters.
Yes.
Featuring me.
Yes, of course. And today's episode, I want to focus in on 2 points of discussion. So, I want to talk about how growing up in the US and Pittsburgh has shaped you as a person, and the second point is how you got so interested in fitness and how fitness and health has impacted and influenced your life. So, can you start with discussing a little bit about where you grew up in Pittsburgh and what that was like?
Well, I grew up in the North Hills area of Pittsburgh with a very large, extended Catholic family. My mother was one of 9, so there were always cousins running around. And so I have deep roots. I wouldn't consider myself a Yinzer. I would consider myself a burger.
So, for some people, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of people listening to this might not understand what a Yinzer is.
So when we think about culture, a lot of times we can think of Pittsburgh dad who has a real strong, like in that accent, like they talk, we going downtown and that, and always having the terrible towel and Steelers, real rough kind of steel mill feel is what I would consider a Yinzer. So my mother tried to make me a little bit more refined. She did she tried. Yeah. So therefore, I would consider myself more of a burger because a lot of times I think, in my opinion, that Yinzers stay completely localized and like hardcore. Pittsburgh is the place to be and the only place to be, and might have difficulty looking outside into the rest of the world, which I've always found intriguing and interesting.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. So you consider yourself more of a burger. That's the first time I've ever heard someone use that phrase.
Well, I do, and you can ask my students this, I do come up with different lingo because that's just what I do.
That's just what you do. That's cool. We love an original queen.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So how do you think, you've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but how do you think growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania specifically, has shaped you into the person you are today or throughout your life? You can take this question however you want to.
Well, growing up in Pittsburgh, once again, I think that it's a small town, that it's a city, but it has a small town feel, vibe to it. Yeah. So once again, I have deep roots. So I will always consider Pittsburgh to be my home base. So in other words, I will travel other places and see and enjoy, but I will come back to Pittsburgh because my mother was so family oriented. And even though my family's large and extended and kind of scattered now, I still have those Pittsburgh roots that Pittsburgh is a great place to raise your children. And I think if you talk to other people, like my neighbor a couple doors down who's lived in various places, such as New York City and My one friend who lived in Boston, they came to Pittsburgh to raise their family because it is a good little town.
Yeah. And
friendly.
You really, I feel like, really instilled that in me, both you and Dad, like the love of Pittsburgh. I mean, you guys genuinely love Pittsburgh. It wasn't just like you have to love it because you're family. It's just like you guys genuinely love Pittsburgh. And I also genuinely love Pittsburgh. So when I go out into the world, like when I'm in Amsterdam and people ask about Pittsburgh, I always talk very highly of it because I think it's a great place. That's also how I was raised as well. But I think it's a great place and there's lots to do. And yeah, there is that like small town feel, even though it is a bigger city and a lot of rich history. And you mentioned traveling a little bit, that you like to travel, but Pittsburgh's always a home base. Where did your desire for travel or love for travel, where did that stem from for you?
Well, when I was a youngin', probably around 8, great Uncle Art would come over for dinners. He was a single man who served in World War II, and he would tell me all these stories about Europe. And I was so intrigued and fascinated as a little girl listening to this and only knowing Pittsburgh. So I went out and got myself a map of Europe and I marked down the places where I wanted to visit. And of course, because my dad is he's Dutch, German, and German, I of course always wanted to visit Germany. That was one of the places
that you wanted to visit. So your great Uncle Art served in World War II. Did he talk about that a lot with you?
He did. He spoke more with my older brother about the military aspect of it. I don't have clear memories of World War II from him because I was only 8. And then we would end up playing. And then as I got older, we would play gin rummy together every single time he came. And we didn't talk so much about, his experiences over there. But he also traveled a lot in addition to being in World War II. He took care of his mother, who was my dad's great grandmother. And those two traveled a lot together. So I think that's where the interest peaked.
So was there something he specifically said about like a specific place that you remember that really stuck with you? Or was it more just like him taking out the map that you remember? And
he didn't physically take out the map. It was just the stories. And then he had all these matchboxes from different places, like literal like matches that because people used to smoke back in the day.
Yeah.
And he had collected everywhere that he would go, he would collect all these different matchboxes. And he gave them to me. And I just thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, you're like wondering where these came from and what's the story.
I was curious.
That's kind of where it started for you. What has been like one of your favorite stories for places that you've traveled to?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of funny. There's so many different places that I've traveled, but the one that popped into my mind first was when I went to Israel. I went with a group of people, and there was this very robust, lively woman who was full-figured, and we were going through King David's aqueducts underneath the city. And it was this narrow little corridor, and just her voice and just the way that she delivered her expressions were hilarious. And I just remember her going, "These aqueducts aren't meant for full-figured women."
I love, that's sort of beautiful that's the first story that popped into your head, because sometimes it really is about the people you're with.
Yes.
And not even necessarily where you're at.
Yes.
But the people and connections you make along the way. that stick with you?
That was a fantastic trip. It was it was a group of lively, funny people who we just connected and we had so much fun.
I love that. And so, how do you think, because we've zoomed in a lot on Pittsburgh, but how do you think growing up in the US more generally, if at all, has shaped you as a person?
Well, fortunately, growing up in the US as a female, I think that I've had a lot of opportunities that females in underdeveloped countries or countries that persecute females and don't allow them to have the freedoms and the express themselves the way that women allowed in the United States do. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have access to education and that my mom told me that I should get an education and be able to take care of myself and be able to, speak my mind. So I'm really, really grateful for that in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, see, like I wanted to bring this question up because I think it's interesting. And I've also, noticed this in the Netherlands a little bit, but it's a little less pronounced because it is such a small country. But in the US, like, yes, we have this, like, we're Americans, but then there's so many other places in the US that almost have their own culture. Like, the south of the US is very different than Pittsburgh. And so I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of like organize your identity, because there's like I'm already just
Absolutely.
like yins, and I tell people a lot about the Pittsburgh strawberry jello salad, and that's part of Pittsburgh culinary. But that's very unique to just hear someone who has lived in California all their life, won't have the same experiences.
Like the cookie table at a wedding. Oh, that's a Pittsburgh tradition.
Can you explain a little bit about
that? Growing up, my mom with her sisters would bake voluminous amounts of cookies, like apricot horns and ladylocks and just all these delicious cookies. And at a wedding, there's a cookie table that's set up where all these different cookies are set out in addition to the cake. And I just grew up thinking that that's what everybody did at weddings. However, it's a Pittsburgh tradition to have the cookie table. Yeah, the pizzelles, and yeah, it's a Pittsburgh tradition. So if outside of Pittsburgh, you may not see the cookie table, which I'm a cookie girl. I love my cookies. So I was really happy about.
This is where you were born and raised.
This is where I was born and raised.
They have a cookie table at weddings. Yep. So speaking of cookies, I am going to shift the conversation to health and fitness a little bit. You have a very active lifestyle. Were you always into fitness? And if not, how did you become so health conscious and aware?
Well, I've always been athletic. My dad would always brag about how he was the fastest kid on the block. So I inherited some of that genetic speed, to which, I played softball, but I didn't really work out per se until I watched my dad doing it. And then my boyfriend went to, at the time when I was, I guess, a senior in high school, he was in boot camp for the Army and he was doing a lot of PT. So I decided to start running and trying this working out. And it just, when I went to college, it just rolled from there. Like started lifting weights and running and training.
And you've been keeping it up ever since.
Yeah. Because
go ahead.
Well, I met your dad, and your dad was also into fitness. So we would run together, we would lift together. And so that was part of our family routine, and started eating healthier. And then as time move forward, my metabolism slowed down. So hence my choosing of being more selective as to what I was putting in my body. Like understanding that whole health, that whole balance between healthy body, healthy mind, and vice versa, that what you put into your body is what you become, because I teach science, biology. So I visualize that on a daily basis. So I recognize that I don't want to be putting Doritos into my body every day.
Yeah. Every day is key. Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every once in a while is fine, right? That balance. How do you strike the balance?
Well, you have to remember that I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't even crave Doritos anymore. They don't even appeal to me. So
yeah,
I'll crave like pizza, but pizza every once in a while isn't bad. I think if you're craving it, you should eat it. You should indulge.
One of the biggest observations I've made from my time in the Netherlands versus here is that in the US, you have to be so much more intentional about getting in activity and fitness. Like you have to be super intentional about it. While in the Netherlands, I mean, if you don't even think about exercise, you can get in 6,000 steps easy without thinking. While in the US, that's not the case. Have you ever struggled with like finding the time and the intentionality?
Yes, when I had children.
Okay.
That was challenging.
When we were younger?
When you were little, when you were smaller, it was challenging, yes.
Because obviously it's very car-centric here.
And I'm a working mom, which is tiring.
Yeah, working mom, a lot of stress. And I have a lot of empathy for that. Because, that's hard. Like, you have already so much on your plate.
But, you don't have to go to a gym. I would not pay money for a gym. I would get a DVD, put on the DVD back in the day.
Yeah, Tony. What was his name?
Tony. P90X, baby.
P90X were DVDs.
I still have Tony with me.
That Heather, I remember watching this workout guy on my TV screen when I was little and you working out to him. And I'm super grateful that you and Dad both had, healthy lifestyles, or always have valued that, because that's definitely, I think, has sunk in with all three of us, as in your children, right? Because you watch that
100%
growing up, and then I've always found ways to do something active. Your weight always fluctuates. I think that's kind of just part of life, but I think that's always on my mind, and I think that's a good thing.
I don't own a scale. I do not believe in owning a scale. I don't think it's healthy because of those fluctuations. Sometimes you can hold water weight because of monthly cycles with females.
I've also adopted that mindset, not to have a weight, because I don't want to start to over obsess on a number. So I like that approach.
I just more about how you feel. Like, do you feel... I feel better whenever I'm eating well and I'm active.
Yeah, I feel better when I get a run in. And I think also too, the thing with running is like an exercise is like, yes, it makes my body healthy, but also my mind. And maybe they're not even separate things, right? Mind and body, right?
They're not.
But like going on a run helps clear my mind so much. And that's...
Yeah. And like the hiking, I love hiking. I've always loved to hike. When I met your dad, we would hike. We had gone camping. Not as much as I would have liked to do, but enough. But now I have a hiking group, and being out in the woods with different women and just hearing different perspectives, and we can all vent if we're having a bad day. We get out what's bothering us. It's very, very therapeutic.
Yeah,
it's a good support system.
That's actually, because also this year I've also done that mixing of making your workout social as well. So my physical therapy group trainings that are/were twice a week, with a group of people with similar injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so nice to get not only the endorphins from the exercise, but then also you're socializing, like meeting people. And that is like, that's a good way to like, if you're having a bad day, that's a quick healthy fix.
And it's kind of cute too, because different people bring different flavors to the hike. And so I'd never known that there was a hickory tree called the pig nut hickory tree. And on our last hike, the one hiker, Karen, she pointed it out and she said, pig nut, that's going to be my next derogatory term. And I said, well, I kind of like it as a term of endearment. And so we started laughing. And so we decided to name ourselves the pig nut warrior tribe.
And you're out there hiking
and we're laughing.
We're laughing.
We're like,
cool.
Pig nut hickory. And I think it's so cute. Little pig nut.
I do love all the hills here and the hiking. I do miss hills when I'm in the Netherlands.
Western PA is the place to come. When I was hiking the Rachel Carson Trail, up came on me was a geologist, and he looked at this hill and he said, this isn't a hiking trail. I've never seen hills like this before. I'm like, welcome to Western PA. That's why Grandma said that the Western PA women have the best legs anywhere. From pumping those hills. Yep. Building up those calves. That's what Grandma said. Grandma Vi. That's your middle name.
Oh, Grandma Violet.
Grandma Violet said that. That's my mom, Janet's mom.
That's my great grandmother, Grandma Violet, who I share her name. My middle name is Violet.
That was one of her sayings. Western PA girls have the best legs.
I did not know this. Hills. This is the first time.
Yeah.
This conversation's bringing to light so many things. And you just mentioned the Rachel Carson Trail, and that's. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about the Rachel Carson Challenge.
I would love to talk about Rachel.
Yeah, that you recently completed. You completed this challenge, and any other upcoming fitness plans you have.
Well, let me tell you about Rachel Carson. Everybody thinks that it's going to be a walk in the woods. Like,
well, what is it?
So the Rachel Carson, this is a good point. So Rachel Carson was an environmentalist in the 60s, 70s who grew up outside of Pittsburgh. And she wrote a book called Silent Spring, which started to bring attention to what industry was doing to pollute waterways and then negatively impact wildlife.
Yeah.
And so she has, back then the industry was just polluting the environment like crazy. So really, if we fast forward till now, we have the Rachel Carson Conservancy. So it's a trail that's preserved so that wildlife is preserved. It's a conservancy. So we can't build, we can't urbanize. We can't put a suburban house in there, which is what we want because there's already enough houses. We want to preserve the land. So every year the challenge is on the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And then of course you have to pay a fee. And then you earn what's called karma, which I think is kind of cool. So the more times you participated, you get a ranking and then you get selected. So it's a 37-mile challenge on one day, lots of hills, lots of elevation. And it can be challenging on the weather. If it's really hot, if it's muddy, it takes a lot of energy. But I've been doing it now since I think 2014 was my first one. I successfully finished 7 of them. So that's
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a good feeling. And I love the process. We start in the spring when life is coming back around from hibernation, and you progressively start up from 7 miles to 10 miles with that hiking group that I told you about. And then typically I'll finish with my girlfriend Kara just because we have the same pace, but that's when we'll finish together.
So you've completed a 37-mile hike successfully in one day 7 times.
Yes.
Right?
That is correct.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And what's next on your fitness goals that you want to...
Well, I've always heard of the Crucible. So the Crucible is a 3-day, 70-mile hike where you camp out 2 days. So I love that aspect of the challenge, but I also love that it's a fundraiser for disabled veterans in the Pittsburgh area. So the fundraising and the veterans program leadership in Western PA has helped to facilitate veterans into civilian life after service and maybe having some PTSD or can't have access to finances to get a house. They've helped that. So that's the fundraiser. So, and that's near and dear because, well, your dad served in the Navy. My brother served in the Army. We can trace our lineage on my dad's side back to the Revolutionary War with a Sergeant Alexander. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right. So next up is completing a 80-mile 3-day hike.
70 mile.
Yeah. 70-mile
3-day hike where I have to carry all my equipment. So my hiking, my sleeping bag, my tent, which I have to find. They will provide snacks and water. So I'm grateful for that and any medical attention that anyone may need. So yeah,
that's so
exciting. It is exciting. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say that maybe we didn't get to touch on before we wrap up?
I would just like to encourage everyone out there to take your first step to walk. Just get up and walk. And because if you're having a bad day, sometimes just curling up into a ball and crying is okay. But then you got to pick yourself up and take your first step and keep walking and just start being active because it will help you in the long run, mentally and physically.
Agreed. So, agreed. Yeah. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom, for being on my podcast.
Thank you. It was so exciting.
Until next time.
Until next time.